credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Vitruvian Podcast, a podcast centered around self-mastery. I'm your host, Zach Shankin. Today, I'm joined by Qasim Ackrim. Qasim is a 20-year-old entrepreneur from the UK and founder of CreativeScale.io and WinnerCircle.io. Qasim began his journey with an e-commerce marketing agency at the age of just 17, and in just a few short years, scaled past $50K per month, while also teaching his unique style of agency scaling to other ambitious entrepreneurs. Outside of his entrepreneurial success, Qasim has undergone a massive personal journey, taking leaps in his personal development over the last year, a passion he also shares with his audience, and we will absolutely be discussing today. I'm excited to share this conversation with you today. Qasim, welcome to the show.
Thank you, man. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, it's been a very serendipitous path for us to meet. I mean, it's just kind of speaks to Bali, and I know you're super bullish on the space here, which we can talk about, but the other day, I was running the 10K with some friends, which is just a charity event here on the ground. I saw Mitchell, a mutual friend now, and I complimented him on his tattoos, actually, and then that started the conversation. And then halfway through, he was like, "You should meet my friend Qasim." So he connected us over Instagram. We met the other day, had a long conversation, which could have been a podcast in of itself, and then have since had another dinner. So I'm glad to take the time in a somewhat formal setting and share the space with you and share the space with
100%.
our audiences. But yeah, I'm very excited.
Sure, me too, man. Me too.
Cool. So typically the way I like to open things up is hear a little bit about your path to the world of self-mastery, as I call it, self-actualization. And I've heard parts of your story, but I think it's a powerful one and worth retelling. So walk me through a little bit about your entry and foray into the world of self-development. It's obviously linked somewhat to your journey to entrepreneurship as well, but walk me through that entry point and whether there was an inflection point, a person, a book that really changed everything for you.
Yep.
And we'll go from there.
So my journey started when I was 17. I was 17, and kind of the way I got into realizing that the normal path of life that was kind of reported to me by everyone in society, my parents, school, whatever else, was not the path I wanted to go down. It's kind of I was 17, end of kind of like last 2 years of high school, so you're choosing the last exams, the last subjects to then determine what university course you do. So I was going down the route of computing science, but I had no passion for computing whatsoever. But my only goal with computing was that, or my only vision with it was that I knew it was a space or a industry that I could make some good money, rather than any other boring industry. So I kind of just stuck at it and I did it as much as I can. And then I eventually did get kind of, I guess, my dream position in university / it's kind of called a degree apprenticeship. University plus you work at a big bank, you kind of like do both and both. So it was perfect. I was getting paid to go to university to be a software engineer. But then I went through that whole process of interviewing. There was like 1 out of like 100 people that got in. So I did the best I could. But then I realized when I started talking to the people who were interviewing me, people that have worked at this big bank for like 15, 20 years, and I was like, how's your life been? How's the journey been? I imagine like you've moved up quite a lot now. You're like, what are you now, like a chief, something officer? And they were like, oh no, it doesn't really work like that. You just kind of like move around departments here and there if you want to, but you don't really move up the company that much. And my whole vision with going down this route was to maybe obviously finish university, work 3, 4, 5 years, move up the company, be see something and then eventually start my own tech startup. But that was like crushed by realizing that this is not how life works. I was kind of living in my own world in that sense. So that's when everything started, essentially from there. And this was like the peak of lockdown. So this is when lockdown started in the UK. I'm from Scotland, by the way. So it's kind of like lockdown was pretty intense there. So lockdown started, and it was kind of a perfect time for me because I guess school wasn't as intense in terms of you weren't in school all the time. So I every single day when I turned 17, it was 2020, January till April, every single day was at home, just watching videos, how to make money online, how to get rich, all those different, watched every single video out there, discovered every single business model that existed online, trading, Amazon FBA, drop shipping, whatever. And I eventually came across a business model that I started, which was called, at the time, Social Media Marketing Agency. So essentially, you start a service-based business and you provide services in return for a monthly retainer. And you can essentially, at the time, you were getting told that you can just outsource the work to somebody else. So I was like, this is perfect. I had no money. I had no experience with anything, so I was like, okay, this is perfect. I can do this. And at the time, this is where like I imagined that my surrounding, my parents, my friends would be supportive of it, and honestly, I could do it with my friends maybe. But then I quickly realized that that's not how life works. My parents shut it down straight away. I got into a big argument with them over months and months and months. Same with friends, not argument, but it was more like as soon as I told them about it, like, who's going to pay a 17-year-old multiple thousands per month, or who's going to work with you, all this kind of shit. So yeah, from there, that's when I kind of, instead of trying to, I guess, talk to the outside world and trying to get a validation from there, I quickly then just went completely by myself, complete in solitude. Didn't talk about my business to anybody else, honestly, until I was living in Dubai. I didn't talk to my business to even my parents didn't know about it. So that was like the starting point of me really going hard on developing myself. So from there, again, I kept watching videos, kept studying the business model that I wanted to start. It was many months of procrastination, like everybody goes through, I'm sure, procrastination and lack of motivation and all this stuff that everybody goes through. But then I then realized that what I was lacking in was I guess the self-mastery, was habits and a routine and a structure. Because obviously, you're not in school, so the day was up to me. I was only 17, and this kind of brought me back to something that my dad always used to say to me. I played tennis competitively when I was all my childhood, really, until I was 17. And one thing he always said to me was that I want the world. I want everything I want to achieve big things. I'm a big achiever, a big dreamer, but I'll never do the work to get there. And as I was a child, I was always like, nah, you're talking rubbish. I'd get angry, I'd get defensive every single time. Every time he told me that through childhood, because that's what happened with tennis. I had the talent and the skill to be one of the best and where I came from. But I just compared to everybody else put the work in, but I decided to not put the work in as much as possible. Obviously, didn't leave everything out in the field. And the same was happening with my business. I had a big dream, I had a big goal, I had big plans, but I didn't put the work in to get there. I just call it procrastination, but honestly, procrastination is a pretty much pointless word. And I'll talk about that maybe. But yeah, didn't put the work in for many months, but then something clicked, and something that clicked was, one, I realized that I should have a structure to my day. This is when I was 17, obviously, so very, very foundational, but I should have a structure to my day. And also I kind of had a source of accountability. I had a friend that I met online. He was kind of doing what I wanted to do, but 3, 4, 5 years ahead of me. And he was the first. I remember jumped on call, and a group call. It was like a Facebook group. Jumped on call with him, told him my goals, and he was like, my goal was 10K a month by my 18th birthday. And he was like, don't worry, man, you're gonna hit that way before that. And that was the first time, because obviously at this time, past 6 months before this, I talked to my business about nobody. I didn't tell my goals to anybody. Didn't talk to my business at all, or life in general, to anybody else. So this was the first ever person I had in my life telling me, you can actually accomplish your goals way before you think you can. And that source of accountability, plus a Facebook group, was a massive help for me to actually take action on what I knew I could do. And then from there, as soon as I took action, maybe within a month and a half, I think I reached my goal of 10K a month. So it was my goal was to do it by December, which is my birthday. I did it in September, I think, that year. So then, yeah, from there, I obviously used that. I remember my routine in school. School was back on for a couple of months. So my routine in school was wake up, I think 5:30 or 6. School would start at around 8:45. So I'd go to the gym. I'd walk to the gym, maybe a 20-minute walk. Go hit the gym, shower there, then walk to school. And then after obviously go through at school, I'd eat. I was also losing a lot of fat at the time, so I was very strict with my diet and returning. So yeah, I'd finish school obviously, and then I'd come home, and almost my philosophy with how I lived my day at that time was I lived 2 days. My first day was school, my second day was my life. The second day when I came back at 4 p.m, cold shower, workout again, and then I got into my 4 or 5 hours of work until 10 p.m. And that routine for I think 3-4 months is what built my life initially. So then from there, it was around November, and I asked my friend at the time, how should I use my money? I had 20-30K saved up from a few months of 10K a month, and then he was like, why don't you just invest in your life and come to Dubai, because he was in Dubai at the time. So then that's what led me to move to Dubai on my 18th birthday. Again, a lot of arguments with parents and external environments, but again I kept it quiet until the last second, and I knew it was the thing for me, because I since a young age, I think self-mastery for me was a lot about being open, and being open to experiences and just new ways of thinking or perspectives. And I think that's one of the things that's honestly been a massive driver for me coming to where I am in life, is the fact that I've always been open to anything that came to me, and I've never like shut it down or was too scared to do it, or was thought I hadn't, I didn't deserve this. So Dubai was the first really big leap, apart from business, was a really big leap to really mastering myself and discovering who I really am, and evolving myself past just like a normal person. So yeah, from there, I moved to Dubai. I was only meant to spend a week there, but spent 3-4 months there during school as well. So it was pretty crazy. Learned a lot there, but whole new perspective on life. My goals went from, my dream is to make 30k a month, just as a whole. This like 1k a day was my dream in total. And now, seeing the people that I was with living in Dubai, not too older than me, multi-millionaires, my goal went from that to I want to be a millionaire now, and I know how I can do it. So yeah, that was a massive step for me in terms of, I think that's where I am right now, because I had the perspective of where I can reach in life. But I think the environment I had in Glasgow, which is where I'm from, was pretty like nobody was around me to kind of motivate me. I had nobody else in business or any friends that wanted to get into it. It was just me. So yeah, that move to Dubai was also a massive step to mastering not just all aspects, wealth, and business and money, but also myself. I learned a lot about training and kind of found my way that I really enjoy to train. And when it comes to how I use my money, I learned a lot about that as well. Also socially as well. Kind of before I moved to Dubai, I had no social life, honestly, because I just stayed at home, played Xbox every single day. So that was my first social environment, right? So it was like also then understood how to like master the game of coming to a social environment and showing up in the way that people will like people that will like you, and you attract the right people. So yeah, from there, I don't know how to do to go into the rest of the journey, but from there, traveled the world, lived in Dubai again for next winter, traveled around Europe with my friends on a road trip, came to Bali, and again, Bali was almost like a whole new start to my new life again when I came here in April this year. Yeah, it was like the start to my new life. I discovered a lot of things about what was truly holding me back, why I was truly not happy, even though I had all the success that I wanted to have, honestly. And we can talk about, I don't know if you want to talk about it now, but there's a lot of things that I realized which set off a chain reaction to me becoming who I am today. Like if you talked to me like 6 months ago, it wouldn't be the same conversation. Wouldn't be the same person either. So yeah, since April this year, it's been a massive transformation, massive movement. It's just getting started, in my opinion. Like now it's time to actually continue to take action and implement all the stuff that I've learned. And it's almost like this concept I like to think of like ceiling to floor, of like what you once thought was your ceiling in terms of the way you live life, the way you see life, the way you operate, can now become your floor to live off of. And that's happened, kind of every month. I guess for me, every second month is like I'm reaching a new ceiling, and then that's my floor to build off of now. So it's almost like every second month, every third month, I'm living a whole new life. I'm a different person. So it's been a good journey so far. And slowly I'm now, moving into master different parts of my life. The kind of like money side is not mastered, but it's a good point. Business side is definitely like my vision with that is kind of like solid. I'm very happy with it. Now it's time to, I'm mastering training really hard, Muay Thai and boxing. So fighting is a thing for me that I really want to master now. And yeah, just like more things that past just business and getting to that point where you're happy with yourself. It's now kind of what I'm focusing on.
Amazing. Amazing story, and certainly very well told. Lots to go back into. I do, one thing that sticks out to me is the move to Dubai, kind of expanding your mindset by seeing just what the world's capable of, right? Like you're raising the potential for what life can even look like just by seeing that it is actually happening.
Exactly,
People
yeah.
are really living it. But I get messages a lot like, how do you have the courage to make the big leap? Like even with this Bali trip, like people are messaging, like kind of asking about that mindset to make these big leaps, whether it's start a business, post your first thing on social media, make a big trip that even your parents may or may not support or stand for, quit your job, these types of larger leaps. So were you somebody that always had that innate sense of confidence? And then with that decision, how did you assess or know that it was the right one?
I don't think it was confidence as much. I think honestly what I've discovered is that the more you detach from the world around you, and the more you live in your own world and you like create your own views, and you don't live based off the views that other people have, even your parents, somebody as close as that. That's kind of the point I was at when I was 17. It's again the point I'm at right now, where I'm completely detached from what anybody else thinks, when anybody else tells me. And when I was 17, I know, especially because I was in the situation where nobody even knew about my business, where I didn't just consult anybody else. I didn't ask anybody else, should I go to Dubai? I lived in my own world, so I was like living in a fantasy world almost. So I think detaching from the judgment of others or the opinion of others in general is a massive thing to do if you want to be a high achiever and you want to accomplish your goals. Because if you're constantly held down by the judgment of others, the being validated by others, then telling you it's a good idea, all this kind of stuff, it's like their opinion is only a projection of their lives. So if somebody is older than you and not really has lived their dream life and they kind of like kept it safe and like lived an average life, they're never going to tell you, yeah man, you should go to Dubai when you turn 18. Like no one would have said yes to me. They'd be like, oh, you're stupid, stay at home, all this kind of stuff. And everyone did. Even to this day, my parents are asking me to come back home. Why am I living away? So for me, the biggest thing was, I think the reason I had no feeling of maybe I shouldn't go was that I just lived in my own world. I was like, okay, I have this opportunity, I have a friend there, and he's saying I should come, and it's going to be a massive step for me. I had no expectations. I didn't know what was going to happen, honestly, but just the thought of it was like, wow. And I was in the position to do it as well. So yeah, that openness came from, I think, just living my own world and not caring or consulting others when I know that it's right for me. I think that's a big thing as well. People are too caught up in other people's opinions and people's validation for their own dreams. But if you know that you're like worthy enough of your own dreams, and you have a dream and you think that you are worthy of that dream, then nothing can stop you, and nothing should stop you. So that was a big thing for me, 100%.
I completely agree. I think, I've been talking, it's been a common through line in the last few podcasts that I've recorded about the power of detachment. It's an interesting duality, and it is somewhat paradoxical, especially as a high achiever with large goals for your life. Still aiming at certain results, and you have to be, process oriented and have goals and metrics and KPIs and all these things. But at the same time, completely detaching from those outputs and focusing entirely on the inputs. And then, 100%. Those are the language I was using there is obviously business and deliverables, but even like personal goals as well. Like I want to move to here. I want to have a partner like this. I want to have a lifestyle like this. It's important to have the directionality, but allow like life to surprise you with the magnitude or the potential 100%. Endpoint, and just focusing on what are the inputs. For business, it's like what are the lever moving tasks on the day to day, and then I think for life, it's about being the person that 100%. Is going to arrive at those places.
There's a really powerful thing that I read recently on that topic is, don't be someone who wants stuff, be someone who creates stuff. Like don't be a wanting person, be one who creates. So don't like want this life don't want the business to be successful, don't want to have the life that you want to have, don't want the goals that you want to have. Just create it. Wake up every single day and create it. Create it for yourself. And creating just means just doing the next necessary required action, and stop wanting it. Because if you live in it's almost like self-pity, where you're living in a state of like, I want this and I want that. For me, I think it's always been a case of, if I have a thought of something that I want, I don't just keep thinking that I want it. I just do whatever it takes to get it, I guess, in a sense. And that's with everything, not just with business or money. It's with life in general. Like I want to live in Dubai now. I want to be in Dubai anyway. Like not just live. I just want to be there in that situation because I've been the opportunity has come to me. So rather than just like sitting there thinking I'd like to be there, I'd want to be there for months and months, straight away I was like, okay, let me look at a flight. So and obviously it was hard at the time because I was 17, but I made it happen. And a lot of probably, I think any 17-year-old would get so bummed down. I was arguing with my parents for months and months and months, and it was not a good time mentally because of that. But yeah, I made it. If I wanted it to happen, I created it. And nothing can really stop you if you want something to happen. At the end of the day, that's what you have to realize as well. Nothing external can really stop you. It's just it's the meaning you put to whatever happens externally. It's the meaning you put to your parents getting annoyed at you, or people telling you no, or people telling you that you're wrong, or whatever. It's the meaning you give to that really affects you, because the meaning affects your emotions, and then the emotions affect your decisions and your actions, and that's obviously how you determine your life. So that's something that's been really important for me to realize. It's the meaning I give to everything that really makes a difference. It's not like what happens externally or what somebody does to me or says to me that actually changes the way I think.
How do you disconnect the emotionality at the beginning of that process? Because now it's something that is likely very, unconscious for you. It's a regular practice where you're not taking things personally. You just see them as objective and or neutral, and you're guiding the ship of your life. But especially at the beginning, it can be hard when people you love or people that are close to you, or even just people in general, are spraying their doubt at you in any form. How do you create that space from the emotional reaction? And
there was a really powerful line that a friend told me, an older friend, when I was 17. And it was mainly to do with the fact that my parents are Asian, so it's a lot more strict when it comes to, like, you have to go to university and stuff like this. It's obviously that's how they've been told their whole lives, that someone's successful life comes from university. So that was a big thing. I didn't go to university. I really didn't want to. Obviously, my parents, extremely hard on me when it comes to, you need to go to university. We don't want you as a son if you don't go, all that kind of stuff. But the line that really made me stick to my own decision was, somebody told me, do you want to please your parents for the rest of your life, or do you actually want to serve them? So when I truly thought about that for, I don't know, a few weeks, I was like, damn, like, I don't want to just please my parents. And especially with Asian parents, or any parents really, they'll always want to be pleased, but deep down, they don't want you, but your duty as a man, as a son or a daughter, is to serve your parents, or your family or your friends. So if you just want to please them and make them happy, but you know deep down that there's something you can do that may displease them in the short term, but will serve them in the long term, then you just have to, it's about being a man. You just have to, like, realize that, okay, like, no matter what they say, I know that I'm serving them. So I know that my love for them is there, and I'm not doing wrong by them. So therefore, like, you're not emotionally, you don't make their words mean much to you. Like, I guess it's a bit sad, but, like, my parents' word kind of became numb to me, in that sense, where I was kind of numb to whatever they said. They said, not horrible stuff, but, with them being Asian, they said some pretty harsh stuff. But I was just kind of numb to it, because I knew in the back of my mind, I'm serving my parents right now. I know that this decision is truly going to serve them. And that's kind of how I approach every decision that I make. Until then.
That is powerful. And I think it's something that I have felt since stepping into the work that I'm doing, and having kind of the higher mission. And I know we've talked about this before, like, even with the direction you're going with your content, where you envision yourself long-term, like, wanting to truly not only serve your family, but the world at large, exactly. And, like, help people unlock their potential and their life. And once you're on that, I call it, like, the heroic mission, right? Like, once you enter the arena, it all becomes quiet. They like, there's a million quotes, like, they don't build statues of critics. And the intro and outro of this podcast is the man in the arena speech from Theodore Roosevelt. Like, it's not the critic who counts. It's the man who's in the arena, sweat, blood, tears, and whether you fail or not, you tried and you experienced it, and you bled for it. Once you're in that space, it all gets very, very quiet. And so I think that is typically my feedback to people who are listening to this kind of podcast, and then maybe they're following your content. They're like, maybe I'll start a business, maybe I won't. I don't know what I want to do, what business model, and they're in the consumption phase, but there's a lot of confusion. My response to people when they're confused is that you haven't found your thing. You haven't found the thing that sets your heart on fire. Exactly. Because once you have that, it all dissolves away.
And I think that, because it also comes into one of the steps I took for self-mastery as well, was spending time with monks last year. I spent 3-4 months with them. It just became about, I just think it was something the universe just wanted me to do. I was at the point where it's been like a year and a bit of, like, me being successful and me living my dream life in a lot of ways, and then I was still kind of unhappy in a lot of ways. Didn't really feel fulfilled. I didn't feel, like, truly happy. So I spent time with monks, the same kind of, like, people that Jay Shetty, if you know him, is where he comes from. So I did a couple of retreats with them, spent a lot of time with them, lived with them even for like a couple of months. And over time, obviously, I learned a lot of things. But over time, the main thing that I learned from them, because I was asking them over time, how do I truly be happy and feel fulfilled with my life? Because they knew that I was doing well for myself and I was young and all this kind of stuff. And they said, find how you can be of service to the world and make that your mission. And I think truly now, even when it comes into small things, like even serving your family, you're serving your mother and father, like, if everything, like, finding your thing comes down to how can you be of service to people that matter to you most. And then obviously, not everyone's going to be of service to the world straight away. It's going to take some time to get there. Not everybody has the opportunity to do that, or needs to do that in a sense. But everyone, when they're doing something they truly enjoy, it's because they're serving someone else. We're on this planet to serve, I think, in my opinion. Even in ways that you might not even think you're serving, you are serving people. If it be your clients, or be it the businesses you work with, or your boss, you are serving someone. So you just have to find the thing that you can do where you can truly serve and enjoy serving, and that's where you're going to find your thing, and then you can turn that into a business that makes millions, or a business that impacts the world, or whatever it can be. Even something as small as just impacting your community or impacting your family, where that's still enough for somebody to be truly happy in life. So yeah, that's what I've discovered as how you can be truly fulfilled with business, with life, with how you living life, with the decisions you make. It's, am I doing this to be of service for first myself, and then am I doing this to be of service to the people that I care about most?
I completely agree. And it's funny you mentioned Jay, because in the week of my program on purpose, I bring up another distinction. I make a distinction on inner and outer purpose, which we can go into, but also passion versus purpose, because I think people conflate them a lot. And Jay has a great quote talking about your passion is for you, and your purpose is your passion in service of others.
Yep, 100%.
And it's when you can find that sweet spot where you're doing both, that I think that is your purpose-built gift to give the world. It's what I call your Achilles advantage, like the thing that you're trying to be uniquely positioned to give for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
And that's obviously my mission, is to get as many people finding their gift and then giving it for the rest of their life as possible. And I think that is my gift to give, is to help other people or facilitate other people seeing the greatness within themselves. And it's why I also like what you were talking about, where you go inward to then be of service. I talked with James actually on the podcast about selfishness as selflessness.
Yeah.
Because it's only from an overflowing cup that you can continue to give.
Man, yeah, 100%. It's one thing that this is a big topic to talk about if you haven't heard about it before, but I've truly discovered that one of the main things that I caused the big transformation in April was me discovering that everything that was holding me back in life, all my roadblocks, the reason I was procrastinating, the reason that I didn't feel happy with myself, or in all senses, in all aspects of my life, was that I didn't have any love for myself. I had a big lack of self-love for who I was right now. I only had love for who I could be, the image of who I could be. That makes sense? So that was the reason as to why I didn't feel like who I was. I didn't love myself enough to do the things that I need to do to become that person, or didn't love myself enough to do the things I even wanted to do in a small scale, like what I wanted to eat that day, or where I wanted to go that day, or just whatever you train that day. So that was a massive thing that I learned. And then from there, what I realized now is that when you truly love yourself, so you almost feel like life loves you back. So everything that you want, not everything, but a lot of things that you want, that you really should have in life, come to you just because that's the universe that loves you back. But also, other than that, like you said, it's kind of you can only have when you have an overflowing cup of love. It's like when you love yourself, that love passes on to others. So then from that state, from that place, that stance, you can then actually be of service to others. And until then, you're never going to be truly who you can be when it comes to helping other people or starting a business or whatever it could be. So you have to love yourself enough and feel that love flowing through you. It sounds a bit esoteric or whatever, but it's so it's a feeling. It's a hard thing to talk about, because when you say these words, people might not have not felt it yet, and they just don't really understand it. And I was the exact same. I always heard self-love, and I was like, that's a bit girly or whatever. That's kind of rubbish. But then when you feel self-love, when you feel having love, true love for yourself, and almost falling in love with yourself as a man, it's probably the most amazing feeling that I've ever felt. And it's about every single day for me. It's about making sure that I feel that every single day, and that then pushes me to be in a state where I can then be of service to other people, be of service to myself, do what I need to do, take action, and also almost anything, to be honest. Yeah,
this is good, and I'm glad we've gotten in this direction, because I think it's so powerful and beyond the business stuff, which is an excellent endeavor, and it's an arena that we find ourselves in. It's a fun game to play. This is the game of life.
100%. Yeah.
And I wrote a tweet about it the other day. That was something to the effect of, like, the real hero's journey for a man is his path from head to heart. Because if we live very quickly in the modern world, we're told to start parsing through reality and like categorizing it and thinking through our problems. Like, what's your plan? What's your direction? What's your vision? And when you are also a smarter person, like a more talented kid, they send you to things like computer science or like engineering. And they're like, oh, the smart kids go study that. Like, go use your intellect to navigate the world. And it's very easy to fall into the trap where you're always just thinking. But the conceptual space of love, like, yes, I know I need to love myself. Everybody hears that, right? Like, you don't want to hate yourself. But that can only bring you up to the line of understanding that you need it. But feeling into what it means to feel love for yourself changes everything. And
Yeah.
that is the transition from the head space to the heart space.
100%.
The mind knows, but the heart feels.
100%.
And that's a different kind of knowing. It's like knowing with a capital K.
Exactly. It's living it. It's like knowing versus living. Like it's a lot. Like I was in a state as well. Like I knew a lot. I had a lot of knowledge, but I didn't do anything with it. And that's not living it. So instead of just knowing everything, you can actually live that. You live this knowledge and actually implement it into your life. That's what feeling it is. And it's one. I remember. I was on a mushroom trip. A friend who was, at the peak of awakening. I was not there. I was kind of like where I normally am in life before this transformation, where I was like overthinking. I was stressed out. I knew I needed to do something to get to where I wanted to be, but I didn't want to do it. I was too scared. All this kind of stuff. And he said, "Bro, just stop thinking. Just feel." And I was like, "Yo." It took me a while to truly internalize what he was trying to say, but that's honestly one of the most important advice I can give to anybody. It's like during your life, just think less and just feel your way into things. What that means is between doing the tasks, like if you have an idea to do a task, stop thinking before you actually do the task. Just do it and feel your way into it, and you'll feel the feeling that you get from doing that task and turning idea into action in a very like closing the gap between idea into action, I guess. So the thinking shouldn't be before you do the task, from idea to task. It should be only when you're in the task. That's the only time you should think. But in between that, even something as small as thinking I want to jump in the pool today, like that, there should be no thinking between that idea and jumping in the pool. That's something where like it's like a small thing, but it's so powerful for me. It's like a thing where before, it sounds so stupid, but it's so powerful. Where like before I lived in places with a pool pretty much ever since I was 18, and I honestly never jumped in the pools that I had, just because I would overthink it. For whatever reason, you'd overthink it. But something like when I know that when I'm in this state of loving myself, the way that I can tell that I am, or way that I can push myself to do that, is just I think about jumping in the pool and I just do it. Doesn't matter what I'm wearing, anything. I just jump in the pool. I do the things I want to do. Go to the beach in the morning. Train when I want to train. Eat when I want to eat. Eat what I want to eat as well. All this stuff. It's like these small things are what truly matters. It's not about like the money. If I make this certain money goal, or if this business does well. It's these small little things that you don't do for yourself every single day that truly puts you in this. There's one thing we talk about as well, where there's two overall types of states you can live in your life. There's a suffering state, which is what most people in the world live in. So states like fear, judgment, just jealousy, all these negative states, and then a beautiful state. So beautiful states are states like love, gratitude, just happiness, joy, gratitude, all this kind of stuff like this. Anything positive. And what I've discovered is that the two things that determine the quality of your life is first what state you live your life in, but then second also, because it's an important thing to realize that you're never always going to be in a beautiful state. Things are going to trigger you, because your whole life you've been conditioned to be triggered by whatever people saying certain things to you, or you not want to take action, or anything can happen really. So it's not about never being in a suffering state. It's about closing the gap from being in a suffering state to being in a beautiful state. Because there is a lot of things you can do, very simple things that can take you 5 minutes, that can push you back and act like the bridge to take you from a suffering state to a beautiful state. And what I've discovered is that that's the true meaning of productivity, or happiness in general. It's honestly everything, productivity, happiness, anything. It's about what state you're in. If you're operating from a state like a suffering state, state of fear, state of judgment, state of whatever, negative, then you can't take action from that state. And if you do take action, it's going to be poor. It's going to be poor quality, and you're not going to enjoy what you're doing, and everything's going to in your head fall apart. It could be with fitness, could be with your work, could be with the business. But if you take action from a beautiful state, nothing can affect you, because you control the meaning you give to everything. So if something, for example, you get a negative reply from a lead, or the money you wanted to make didn't happen, you don't see that as something negative. You see that as you take the good out of everything. You see the silver lining. You approach everything in a way where no matter what happens in my life, God or the universe is trying to show me something here. There's a lesson here for me to learn. And if you approach life in that way, you can't be unhappy. You can't be angry. You can't be negative, because that's something where I've not felt anger or negativity in a long time. I may feel it, I may have the feeling, but then it comes down to that second point where I made, where it's about how quickly you close the gap. It's one thing I learned from a guy called Joe Dispenza, where he said it's not about not having the reaction, a negative reaction to things. It's about how long you have control over how long you stay in that reaction. That's what people don't realize. People say that what they said affected me, or me not reaching my goals has affected me, but it's not that that's affecting you. It's what I said before. It's the meaning you give to that. And if you can change that meaning, which you have complete control to do, then that's where you can feel that negativity, but you can instantly, pretty much in seconds, just turn that off and switch straight back into a beautiful state. And if you operate life in that beautiful state, that's when you're truly happy. Money makes no difference. Nothing external can make a difference to you, because you internally you are happy. Internally you are content, and everything is just, the world is here to serve you, and it's not there to be against you or to do anything against you. So that from there, that's where I've been the happiest I've ever been in my life. Yeah,
it's amazing. I've talked at length with a second podcast I did with a man named Mike Lucchese, for anyone who wants to go back and listen. But we discussed the power of you are not your thoughts.
100%.
And the problem, most people experience things like depression, anxiety, and suffering because when the feeling arrives, which you don't have control over, and Joe Dispenza does a good job of articulating this, which is, it's kind of a false flag of meditation, is that you eventually get to the place where you're controlling your thoughts. That's never the case. Ultimately, like, meditation is simply the ability to observe them,
detach
and
from them
still,
as well.
and detach.
100%.
And, we talked in that episode about, you can imagine your mind as this kind of frame, or looking up at the sky, like the emotions that you experience are like clouds passing through. And sometimes those are big clouds. Sometimes it's a whole storm. However, they are still passing through. Mm-hmm. And you are the observer watching the sky. You aren't the clouds themselves. You also aren't the sky itself. And so whether it's a positive emotion or a bout of depression, anxiety, worry, things like that, you can observe the feeling, see it come up within yourself and say, oh, like, I am feeling sad, but I am not sadness.
Yeah, 100%.
I am feeling depression, but I am not depression.
Yeah, 100%.
Creating that gap solves all of your issues, because it's like you said, the ability to detach from it, and the gap between that is, it brings to mind a quote from Viktor Frankl, who wrote Man's Search for Meaning. He said that between stimulus and response, there's a gap, and in that gap, we choose our life, or something to that effect, which I've butchered the quote, but he's talking about the same concept. And in his context, he was a survivor of a Holocaust camp and all of these things. So somebody from that very deep end of the spectrum of true physical suffering, like stuff that most people could never imagine or make their life's experience analogous to. If somebody like that can say that.
Yeah, it's very true.
Easy to internalize.
100%. There's two things here which has been really powerful on this exact topic. The first thing is from a book called The Untethered Soul. And in that book, it talks about, in your head, you live with a roommate. It's not just you. You live with that voice in your head as your roommate. And it's up to you to decide, like, it's up to you. You have complete control over deciding if you want to listen to that voice or not. And that voice quite, pretty much all the time tries to make the worst of every situation that you're in. It tells you things, and it gives you thoughts and all this kind of stuff that if you did take action and think that was you, then your life would be pretty rubbish. But it's up to you to always be conscious and self-aware of the fact that that voice in your head is not you, like you just said, and detach from that voice. And you are just solely an observer of that voice, and you don't have to actually take action and live your life and decide your decisions based off what it's saying to you. And the second thing is this quote. I'm not going to say it right, but it's just like a quote I read yesterday actually, where it's like some Cherokee, like old Indian tribe leader told his son, there's a war in my head as there is in your head and everybody else's head between two wolves. The first wolf is evil, and it's like all the negative things, fear, anxiety, whatever else, sorrow. And the second wolf is like a beautiful thing. It's like happiness and love and joy and gratitude. And then the son asked, which wolf is going to win? And the leader said, it's the one you feed the most. So it's truly something that I realized where you can build momentum up in both ways, positive and negative. So even something as simple as you wake up in the start of the day, you open your phone up, you compare yourself to other people. Even the fact of opening your phone up versus doing what you want to do, which is start your morning routine and go outside, just get started with the day, go train. That's the first step where you start the negative momentum. Then you go on your phone, you go on Instagram, you scroll. That scrolling is giving you a false sense of dopamine and rubbish dopamine. Then maybe you compare yourself to somebody else and be like, oh, I wish I was like them. Or maybe when it comes to the physique or when it comes to their success. And then it just builds up negative momentum where then maybe, okay, then you just watch some videos then. And you just keep doing that and keep doing that. You keep doing the things that build up negative momentum. So then the day just seems like, rubbish. You just, this was a rubbish day. I felt like shit today. Like, honestly, when anybody comes to me saying I've been feeling like shit recently, it's like, it's because they haven't understood this way of thinking. They haven't truly internalized, what we just said in the last 10 minutes. So yeah, it's something really powerful. And the same happens, in the opposite way. You feel amazing if you just make that one decision to get up out of your bed and do what you want to do deep down, which is start your morning routine or go outside or go and train straight away. That builds up positive momentum. You make the right decision with food. You eat right. Then when you eat right, you feel better. Then when you train, you feel better. Then you go to work and you think less. You just actually take action. Then the whole day feels amazing. The whole day feels full. And that's what I've found as the reason as to why people have, shit days and days merge into one, and you don't feel like you're really living your life, and you're just kind of like, that's what depression is almost. So yeah, it's really powerful, this stuff. And if you truly internalize it, this is what truly makes the difference between your quality of your life being, shit and amazing.
I agree. And I talk about it in week 3 of my program, which is the dagger in your side, kind of getting out of your own way, and the power of things like routines, habits, etc. You're kind of leveraging the power of both the unconscious, but like it's a universal law, like Newton's third law. Like with inertia, it can go whichever direction you allow it to accumulate. And the hardest part in life is changing direction of momentum or even starting it in the first place. But that positive spiral, like you decide the direction of the spiral. It can be a very quick downward spiral, and it can be a very, very quick upward spiral. And
100%.
it's just the getting the flywheel going at the beginning, which is super hard. You're cranking it. It's very intentional. But within a matter of days sometimes, weeks sometimes, months sometimes, you look back and it's like effortless and unconscious, right? Like you and I are at a state where training isn't a decision we make every day. It's just
100%.
what we do. And we also look forward to it. It's very exciting to us. But there was a time in both of our journeys where you had to force yourself, like, fuck, I have to schedule this in. Like, I have to go. I don't want to go. You have to drag yourself. But enough of those days in a row, dragging yourself through conscious effort, it becomes unconscious.
100%. There's also one thing which has been really powerful for me, even to this day, when it comes to working. I think the reason a lot of people procrastinate or don't take action on what they need to do when it comes to their work or their business is they separate starting and doing. So they, like for me, I knew that when it comes to work, it was just, I have a problem with getting started. But then when I actually do the work, I enjoy it. I get into the flow. And then I realized, like, there's no difference between starting and doing the work. Like you're creating that difference. You're creating the separation. So like it's the same thing. It's objectively in the world, it's the same thing. Starting work or doing the work is nothing. There's no difference in that. But you are creating the difference, and then by creating the difference and putting so much, attaching so much to starting the work, it could be judgment of the fact that you haven't done it yet, or fear of the fact that what if I can't do it properly, or what if whatever. Or even fear of something like, for example, you're doing a task in your business where like it can lead to you making money or reaching your goals in the future. You even have a fear of the fact that you won't even reach those goals. So that something so far away can still affect you taking action right now, and something so small. It's all the stuff you attach to starting the work that actually is the reason you procrastinate. And if you just learn to consciously remove that separation and just start without thinking, just remove the thinking and just start. There's no effort. It should be effortless, but you just start typing. You just get there. You just show up. Same with training. You just show up to the gym, and like it's like so many books try to say it in different ways. Like a 2-minute rule or something. I can't remember which book that was. Maybe Atomic Habits. Where it's like just start doing it for 2 minutes, and you realize that like you'll actually want to keep going, or go to the gym and do 2 reps. Just tell yourself that you're going to do 2 reps there. But then when you do 2 reps, you're going to want to do the whole workout. It's that kind of thing where like just stop separating the starting of it or going there and actually doing it, because it's the same thing. You're creating the difference. And then from there, just a few days or maybe even just one day of just doing rather than thinking before doing it can cause the feeling of like, wow, actually I know this feels amazing. So like I want this feeling again. So that can create the move, the shift you need to not procrastinate anymore, to not take action on your goals when it comes to fitness, when it comes to anything really, fitness, work, anything really to us.
You touched on something pretty important that I want to circle back to, which is that sometimes people procrastinate for a lot of underlying reasons that may be fear or doubt of even achieving the thing. But how, to play devil's advocate, someone listening is like, Qasim, I really do want to start my business, but it's just, I can't bring myself to, and they're not aware of what those reasons are, like whether it's imposter syndrome or identity issues like that. How do people raise their awareness of the underlying issue rather than symptom management. Because I think that the action, it's a great way to start, but if you're always consciously forcing, that's no way to live life. Like
100%.
you do want it to be effortless. You do want to get to a flow. And I think it means addressing that underlying stuff. How do people bring awareness to that?
So I think self-awareness is, like you said, it's the most important part. It's the first step, and that first step can honestly mean the whole shift can be made. For me, that's what it's been. Like just to be awareness of the fact that this is the reason I've been procrastinating. This is the reason I haven't been taking action. Was enough for me to actually take action. So self-awareness for me has come from several things. I think the most important and easiest thing you can do every single day is journaling. I think journaling and really getting used to journaling, people really don't see it as the way they should see it. They see it as it has to be a certain structure, they have to do it in a certain way, or they have to only write about positive things or be great gratitude and stuff like this. But that's not what journaling is. Journaling is a tool, just like mushrooms is, or just like anything else is, really, that's best positive for you. It's a tool for you to develop your thoughts. And I think a lot of people in the world, the reason they aren't really developed is because they lack the skill of being able to develop their thoughts. They just think and go through life thinking on the surface level. So the thought they have is what they have to believe, or like if they have this thought, then that's just the way it is. But if you begin to every single day first be aware in the sense of like writing down your thoughts, brain dumping throughout the day, as whenever you have a thought, whenever you get triggered by something and feel some sort of anxiety or fear or whatever negative feeling, you write it down. You become accountable with it, and whatever thoughts going through your head, you actively try to develop those thoughts a bit more. So, for example, today I felt, when I was doing my work, I kind of felt scared. I kind of felt fear, and that kind of made me want to go to my phone and be distracted or escape what I was doing. Then you, rather than just writing that and you just leave it from there, then you take the time to develop that thought. Why did this happen? Where did this come from? What was the first thing that caused me to feel like this? What was it? Looking at all the work that I had to do? Was it thinking about the fact that I haven't done it in the last 6 months? What was it? And then think about, what does that mean to you? Why is the fact that you haven't done it in the last 6 months, what does that actually mean to you? What meaning are you giving to that? Mm-hmm. Which is creating the fear. Or the same with not reaching your goals. What does reaching your goals truly mean to you? Because a lot of the times when it comes to fear, especially with like reaching goals with money or with business, it's always like, it's not necessarily limiting beliefs too. It comes into it. Your limiting beliefs or your fears around success are usually just stories you tell yourself. Like, if I don't reach here, my life's going to be over. And it's not a bad thing to have that thought initially, but you have to have control over how that affects you. In terms of like you have to understand, okay, that's not truly the truth, but then like that can create two things when it comes to like, you can then become complacent, or you can actually then realize that, okay, even though I'm not going to die, this is something that I truly want, and it's normally because I truly want this because it's going to mean that I'm going to be of service to myself and my family, wherever it can be. So yeah, there's a lot of things you can think about, but the journaling is the most important thing every single day. If you aren't journaling, and also then things like meditation can come in, which meditation for me just gives you the clarity. It helps you develop the same way you develop your muscles in the gym. Meditation, it helps you to develop the skill of being able to detach from your thoughts and not kind of see your problems as monsters. You can kind of see them as just like puppies. So that's one powerful thing that I've kind of learned from Tony Robbins, where he said, don't approach your problems in life when they seem like monsters to you, when they seem like massive things. Do things like meditation, enter a beautiful state, be in a good state of self-love and whatever else could be, whatever makes you feel good, and then approach your problems from that standpoint, because then you're actually, you're thinking the way you should think. You're not seeing things as they're not, and you're not telling yourself stories about how your life's going to be over and how everyone's going to hate you and everyone's going to judge you and whatever it can be, and you're going to die. So all this kind of stuff is most of what holding people back in life. Like, if I don't reach my goal, then your life's going to be over. But like, I've seen like some of my mentees now, 16, 17, 18-year-old guys, like, if I don't hit 100k a month by the time I'm 20, my life's going to be over. But like, bro, let's actually analyze that. Like, you're just telling yourself a story that doesn't exist. And it's the same with me even. I went to a Tony Robbins seminar, it's like Unleash the Power Within event earlier this year. And one of the things he did was to write down your limiting beliefs. I wrote 3 down, which is something I didn't actually realize I had, but in the event, it made me realize that I had these limiting beliefs that were holding me back in business and in life. In all ways, really. And then what he did was this process of, I don't think it's called the Dickens process or something. It was like, so what he did was like, the lights were off. It was like, obviously like half dozens of people in the room, so the energy was pretty insane. Everyone closed their eyes, and it was like Tony Robbins and the speaker, like shouting, like really intensely. Like, he kept going through this process of, okay, imagine in a year from now, imagine you kept up these limiting beliefs. What would you have lost out on? What would you have not done? What dreams would you have given up? All this kind of stuff. And he kept doing that 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. And every single time he'd like really push you emotionally to like feel the pain, like cause as much internal the feeling of pain as much as you can, like really like feel that pain, like that kind of shit. And it's really insane, like how much that can affect you and how much you can really cause pain inside of you when there's nothing there, it doesn't exist, but you're just causing it inside of you. So you kept doing that 15, 20 years. Imagine your deathbed, imagine the family you didn't have, imagine what you've missed out on, imagine all this kind of stuff, the negative things about your life. And then from there, he switched it completely. So like imagine now you these limiting beliefs just went away. Imagine what you could have done. Imagine what you can accomplish. Imagine life you could have. And you kept doing that again for like 5, 10, 15 years, 20 years on your deathbed. Imagine how happy you'd be. And then after that, at the end of that, then he was like what do you feel now? What do you feel? And like, I feel amazing. And everyone's like screaming and crying and all this kind of shit. And that just made me realize that all these things that are holding you back, you have complete control over if they actually hold you back. And something like that process is like a tool you can use to truly feel what that feeling would be if you kept up these limiting beliefs or kept up this fear. Then after that, the conclusion I came with all my limiting beliefs or all of my fears was that they just weren't valid. And I was the one who made them valid. I was the one who gave them my energy, and that created the problems in my life. So it's really powerful to realize all this stuff. Like, this is probably what's holding back the majority of people in life, is that the stories they tell themselves and the fears that they're honestly giving energy to, the same way the guy in the story I told you give energy to the negative, to the evil wolf. You're just feeding him, and that's who you're feeding. If that's who you're feeding, then that's what you're going to feel, and then the feeling's going to create the actions, and the action's going to create your life. So if you're not creating positive feelings or emotions, then you're not going to be taking positive actions or actions that can actually take you down the path you want to go down. So yeah, it's all the stuff. This is like 5% of the stuff that I've been learning the last like 7 months, but this is like some of the most important things that I've been learning.
If you're comfortable sharing, if you remember them, what were the 3 things that you wrote down?
So one of the most important things was nobody will respect. So I've had this thing ever since I turned 18, where everybody saw me. So because obviously most of my life started, and I pretty much started my life when I was 18, 19, socially, just online, everything. So that was kind of my identity. And my identity at the time was like the 18, 19-year-old teenage success, the teenage millionaire, all this kind of stuff. That was my identity. So I only thought people respected me because of that. And I had this fear around, if I don't hit a certain number goal, or if I'm not extremely, extremely successful, even more than I am right now, in the ways that I want to be, by the time I turn 21, which is in a few months' time in December. If I don't have that, then if I'm not, at that point, then no one will respect me. I'll have no one's respect. I'll be nothing. So I had this limiting belief of that, where nobody would like me, nobody would respect me. I'd be nothing if I wasn't, worth 10 million by the age of 21. Some stupid numbers like this, right? Worth 10 million, or had these other goals, or in the peak position that I wanted to be in by the time I'm 21, 22. And that thing that I was telling myself was the reason as to why I wouldn't do something as small as go to train, or do the work I need to do, or take action on the task that I wanted to take action on. And it was insane. Like, I just realized that this just is nothing. Like it doesn't make it. One, it doesn't make a difference what people think about you, and 2, nobody's gonna think about it anyway. No one's coming to me and thinking that because you're not making 10 mil by the age of 21, you're nothing. It was just a story I told myself, because of that was my identity, and I held on to that identity so much. That was the most important thing. The other 2, I can't really remember the exact words, but it was around the same sort of thing. But yeah, that was the biggest one for sure. Ever since then, I've truly realized that, like I said, 1, it doesn't really make a difference what anybody thinks about you, and 2, it's that whole, like, that, I think with every other, the same conclusion I came to with every other limiting belief I've ever had, that I still have now. It's there. It just doesn't. It's not real. You're just making it up, and it's a story you tell yourself. It's a story you tell yourself. But it's also a really hard kind of like thing, because if you tell somebody who's like in that situation where they're so scared, and they're in that kind of frame of mind where they're had these limiting beliefs and they're affecting them so much, like they're monsters to the person. If you say to them, it's a story you're telling yourself, it's not true, they're going to get defensive. They're going to be like, no, that's not true. It's not a story I'm telling myself, all this kind of stuff.
You don't know how it works.
I've had that so many times where I kind of had to learn how I can bring this to people in a way that it won't affect, it will actually impact their lives and really make the change in their lives with my mentees and stuff like that. Because I've had the same journey that I think most other people are starting when it comes to like guys, my mentees who are like this in any age really, but like for example 18, 19, 20, 21. I've been through the journey that they're going through, so I kind of know now why they're having the same problems, why they're having the same thoughts, all this kind of stuff. So I used to kind of like, when I didn't truly understand how I should really like take this massive realization and bring it to people in like a easy way for them to truly understand it over time. I used to just say when somebody would come to me with a big fear, like, oh, my business is going to fall apart because this one small change that I have to make to the way that I offer my service, they say like, oh, everything's going to fall apart, everything I did was a lie. And I'd say to them, it's just a story you're telling yourself. It's not true. And they'd get so defensive. Like, no, it's not a story I'm telling myself. It's just straight, it's the facts, all this kind of stuff. So then that's when I realized as well, what I told you was like, it's really important to approach your problems when they're not monsters to you, and approach them when they are just like little puppies. Like you can approach them and you have control over if they affect you or not. And then you can truly dive deep into them. Okay, what does this truly mean to me? Why do I have this fear? Where did it come from? What triggers it? What happens when it gets triggered? What pattern do I fall into? If it could be physically, emotionally. There's always a pattern you fall into. Your life is made up of patterns. So if you can identify those patterns that you fall into and what triggers them, then you're able to either adapt the patterns or just like throw them away and make new ones. And that's where you can make up your life, in a sense. Because I had so many of them. I had a massive fear of being alone as well from childhood, and kind of insecurity. And that fear of being alone affected so much stuff, more socially than it did with business. But for example, let's say someone would get slightly annoyed at me or angry at me for any certain reason, I'd just shut off. I couldn't communicate. I'd feel like shit for days sometimes. I wouldn't live my life properly. I'd stay in my bed. I would be in a suffering state, like a very bad suffering state. And this is when I realized as well, this is happening in April when I realized it. I was like, yeah, I didn't actually know I had this fear, and this fear was the thing that was affecting me so much. And then I went through the negativity and the pain where it was like, why am I so scared to be alone? And I discovered for myself why I was so scared and realized that it's not true. I can be alone. I'm happy being alone. I'm actually the best I've ever been when I'm alone. It's just a story you tell yourself about how these negative things will happen when I'm alone, or all this, you need external validation to be happy. But yeah, it all comes down to everything you want in life it comes from within you, and all the answers you're seeking for are already inside of you. It's just like you have a filter over your eyes or over your mind where you can't access that yet because of your ego, because of your fears, because of your judgment, because of whatever it could be. That's the reason you can't access these answers that are already inside of you, and those answers are the things that will actually set you free in terms of being able to achieve whatever you want to achieve and be truly happy and fulfilled and all this kind of stuff.
So how do people take it from listening to a podcast like this and understanding, reading books? Conceptually, they get it. They're like, got it. Okay. It's limiting beliefs. It's mindsets. It's seeing myself. It's the stories I'm telling myself. But how do they change the stories they're telling themselves, and how do they feel into the right way of living?
So I think the easiest and the most important thing you have to do every single day, which is what I found, is you have to make sure every single day you're in a beautiful state. Because when you're in a suffering state is when all these problems and these roadblocks come. Like, I realized that it was only when I'm in a suffering state during my days that I overthink, that I stress out, that I procrastinate, that I do all these roadblocks that everyone else has as well. And then I realized that every day that I'm in a beautiful state, these roadblocks just fade away. These fears that I have fade away. The judgment of myself fades away. It's just not there really anymore. And even if it is there, you're able to approach it and address it properly. Like when I said, it's not a monster, it's a puppy now, so you can actually address it and dive deep into it, and then it will fade away. So the most important thing is to make sure every single day you're doing the things that make you feel amazing, or make you feel be in any state. It could be gratitude, it could be joy, it could be compassion, it could be love. Love's the most important one in my opinion. So what I've discovered is that there's a book that really helped me with this called Love Yourself Like Your Life Depends on It by Naval Ravikant's brother. So in this book, he goes over the whole concept of self-love and how he went from depressed and his business falling apart and it got broken. So his girl broke up with him and all this kind of stuff. Like, he's going to kill himself, to then being the man he is today, extremely successful, running a massive venture capital firm and all this kind of stuff. And he went this is the process that saved his life. So the main part of the book is talking about the 5 practices of self-love. The first one is, there's 4 I think he goes in the book, but there's 5 that I use. So the first one is meditation. So meditation, it could be something as simple as, like, the way he says it in the book is just turn on a good song, obviously not like a pop song, but a more like a song that makes you feel good in whatever way because of the instruments. Turn on a good song, could be 5 minutes, 7 minutes, just meditate to that song. Just breathe in and out, and every time you breathe in, like, tell yourself, I love myself. And then when you breathe out, just try to just let go of everything and almost just try to feel the light coming into you. Maybe it doesn't make sense right now, but when you meditate, you will feel that light coming into you, and you feel kind of almost like it's like something that happens to me where if I meditate for long enough and properly and really surrender, then I almost kind of without wanting to, I just say thank you. I just feel grateful. I don't know who I'm saying thank you to, but I just say thank you. And that's like the place you should get to when you meditate. It could take 5 minutes, it could take 10 minutes, it could take 15 minutes, but however long it takes, you should get there. That's the first one. The second one is journaling for me. Journaling is that way of being able to first put on your thoughts and be self-aware of them, but also the way that I journal every single day is I first set intentions, so probably like 3 intentions for the day, of who I want to be, how I want to live that day. Even one of them can be like, today I'm going to make sure that I love myself. I'm going to do everything I can and be the person that loves himself. Then I go to gratitude, and like not gratitude in a very like corny way, just like truly, like what are you feeling grateful for at this point in life? Not just I'm grateful for my health, I'm grateful for this. Like truly, like exactly what are you grateful for? Because the reason you're doing this is the reason you're writing it rather than just thinking it is because this writing it and seeing it should like cause the feeling, and that's what you're trying to achieve with journaling. You're trying to achieve the feeling. It's obviously not the most effective way of feeling, but it's one of the ways. It's one of the easiest ways. And then after that, I go into gratitude, and then also commitments. So after that's commitment. So what am I committed to right now? And you should only have maybe like 3 to 5 commitments that you really are committed to. Could be with work, could be with personal life, could be even the fact that you're committed to loving yourself and doing whatever you need to do to make that happen. And then I go into my action steps, which is like the tasks in the day. And then I have like 1-2 pages of my thoughts, feelings, and realizations of that day. Even acknowledgements as well. So that 2 pages is pretty much just for like brain dumping. Any thoughts that I have, develop them. Any realizations that I have, any things that I'm thinking about, any acknowledgements that I want to make just to myself. And that should cause the feeling of like you're writing this down. Like I felt amazing today when I did this. That should like even boost the feeling of amazingness that you have in yourself. That's the second one. The third one is something that's a bit more, I guess, taboo, but it's something, honestly, one of the most powerful ones for me. It's crazy as well because I realized this exercise, which is one of the practices of self-love. I realized this practice not from the book, but from my mushroom experience. But it's crazy because what I did in the mushroom experience without trying to do it, just happened, was what it told me to do in the book. But I read the book after the mushroom trip, so it was pretty insane. So the practice is called the mirror exercise. So the mirror exercise is pretty much all about falling in love with yourself. So the whole idea of it is, and also when I describe this, it may sound like it's a bit weird, but in the book he even says this, where it's like if it feels weird to you and if you feel uncomfortable, that's the reason you should be doing it. Because if you don't, and the exercise is, you look in the mirror, you look into your eyes, and nothing's around you, nobody's around you, nothing to like change the way you think, and you just look into yourself and you just talk to yourself. But the main thing to say to yourself is like, I love you. I love myself. I like just look into your eyes and fall in love with yourself. And what he said in the book was that if this feels uncomfortable for you, this means this is the most important practice for you. Because if you can't even, as a man, if you can't love yourself properly and you can't fall in love with yourself, that love means nothing to anybody else. You can't truly pass that love into anybody else. You can't love your girlfriend. You can't love your parents because you'll always be in a state of projection, projecting your lack of love. So as a man, it may sound a bit corny, but you really need to fall in love with yourself. And looking yourself in the mirror and talking to yourself is one of the most powerful ways to do that. And just whatever comes into your mind. Like, for example, me in the mushroom trip, I looked in the mirror, I looked into my eyes and I was just like, I'm so sorry that I've never loved you. I didn't like try to say this, it just came out, right? And like, it's just me and you. No one's going to come save us. All this kind of stuff. I just had a conversation with myself for like half an hour. But even doing it for like 5 minutes is enough. Every single morning or any time in the day, really. That's the third one. The fourth one is I'm gonna forget it now. Oh, the fourth one is doing something powerful that makes you feel powerful. So something that makes you feel powerful, that makes you feel amazing. So for me, I discovered it with shadow boxing, and like just working out in general, but mainly shadow boxing because it just makes me feel good. So wherever that can be for you, find what that is. It could be even just like going outside for a walk, but anything that you're moving and you're outside, that makes you feel powerful. You could also use like music to be a trigger to like put you in that state as well as you're doing it. But for me, like I know that when I feel a little bit rubbish, if I just go outside, listen to the trigger music that I have like 5 songs that it's almost like acts as a trigger to put me into a beautiful state. And I shadow box to it and I really go intense, then it makes me feel powerful. And it could be running, it could be working out, it could be lifting weights, whatever makes you feel good. But doing something, having this something that makes you feel good, this movement that you do that makes you feel powerful, makes you feel amazing, that makes you feel like you're unstoppable, it makes you feel like you're a champion. That's the last one. That's the most important one. And all this stuff, everything, all these 5 practices can take like half an hour in total. And that half an hour in a day can change the whole course of the day. And that day can change the whole course of your month. That month can change the whole course of the year. And that year can change the whole course of your life. So this all starts on these 5 practices. And this could be others too, but these are the 5 more important ones. And there's other stuff from guys like Tony Robbins. He has the hour of power, stuff like this. But they're all just different forms of pushing yourself and acting as a bridge to push you into a beautiful state and feeling either grateful or feeling love or feeling joy, and whatever it is, that makes you feel amazing. That then creates the beautiful state for you to take action in.
If you could only keep one from that list, what would you keep?
It's hard because I feel like journaling serves multiple purposes, but when it comes to like pushing myself into a beautiful state, I think probably the mirror exercise, because it's the one that it's mainly because it's the one that I did without knowing it was a practice of self-love. And the fact then after when I realized it, like from the book, it was a practice of self-love. I think the universe is trying to tell me like this is something that really is important to you, and it may be something different. You know, may be different practices depending on where you are in life. You know, everybody is affected in different ways. But for me, I think that one's important because it's not just, you know, a certain thing that you do when you look in the mirror to yourself. It's just whatever you feel like you need to, what that you should be doing. You could even, for example, like just start flexing in the mirror, start like, you know, shadow boxing it in the mirror. It's about looking at yourself and falling in love with yourself. That's the idea of it. And whatever way whatever way you can get there is, you know, what you should be doing. But the easiest thing to do is just look in your eyes and focus into your eyes and just like remove the feelings of like, oh, this is a bit weird, judgment or whatever, and just tell yourself you love yourself. And say whatever words you want to say, and act like it's a person that you're talking to, because that's what it felt like on the mushrooms. Like if it felt like it was a different person there in front of me, but it was just me. So yeah, that's probably the most powerful one, because that can then, you know, create everything from there. You know, you can there's so much stuff you can do in that 5-10 minutes you speak to yourself, where you can, you know, God knows what can happen from there.
What do you think is the biggest thing that you're still working through right now?
I still feel like even what I'm talking about here is what. One thing that it says in Love Yourself Like Your Life Depends on It too is that it's not just about doing this stuff and doing these practices when you feel, you know, rubbish. Like obviously when you feel sick, you'll do everything to feel healthy. When you feel healthy, you stop doing the things that you did to feel healthy, right? So like when you feel amazing, you just think, I'm fine now. I love myself now. You just assume that you love yourself. It's the biggest thing that I'm trying to still stick to is making sure that no matter what happens in my day, no matter how amazing I feel already, or whatever, I make sure that these practices that are important to me, that I do them every single day, because I can't imagine, like this is almost like my ceiling right now, where like in life, my ceiling in life is I can't imagine where I can get to if every single day I love myself, like in business and fitness and life, everything. I can't imagine the action I can take and the progress I can make and everything that I want to do if every single day I'm in a beautiful state, and that beautiful state is most likely going to be love. So if I do the things that make me love myself, I can't imagine what can happen. So if I do that for like 1 month, 2 months, like I'm probably going to be living a completely different life in like a few months' time. But it's just about making sure that I do that every single day and not being lazy. That's I'm trying to work through right now.
Amazing. Well, Qasim, it's been awesome, and I think we can keep going and going.
Yeah.
So I think that's a beautiful note to start to wrap things up. I have 3 closer questions that I ask every guest on this podcast, and I think they'll be very, very relevant today to this conversation. So the first is, if you could go back to a younger version of yourself and tell him one thing, what would that be?
It would be to, like, most likely the self-love. That's probably the most powerful thing that I've ever discovered for myself. It's stop just loving who you can be and take the time and do the things that make you love who you are right now, because you're not going to ever be able to take the proper real action to achieve what you want to achieve unless you love who you are right now. And I think that comes in a lot of ways. You know, it can come from, and the lack of love can come from insecurities, can come from conditioning from childhood, can come from the way your parents spoke to you. It can come from a lot of things. But if you develop a love for yourself and you fall in love with yourself, that's when you feel unstoppable. And when you have that feeling, you can do anything really. You know, in any path of life, you can really accomplish anything you want.
Amazing. Secondly, I'm a big quote person. We've referenced a number of them on this podcast. So what is one quote that's always stuck with you or that you try to live by?
There's a lot of quotes.
Mm-hmm.
I think that quote that I told you earlier is a very important one to me, because it makes me realize that the most important thing in my that I think everyone does in life. Most important thing to realize that everyone does in life is they feed the wrong wolf. And it's just, if you always feed the good wolf, not the evil wolf, then everything will be fine, because that's what's gonna push you to be in a beautiful state. To then that wolf will win the war. So that's one of the things I think that that's been most powerful in my life.
Amazing. And then finally, what do you believe is your unique gift to give the world?
I think this is what I discovered when I spent time with monks. But I think I've been gifted this opportunity in life where I've been successful from a young age, not just with business, but just I've being able to experience things that most people will either never experience or definitely not experience at my age. And I've like the reason I've been given that is so that I can then pass down that knowledge and like kind of take my experiences with business, with success, with money, with experiences, with life, with self-mastery, everything, and then understand and internalize how I can then I guess teach that or show that and or portray that in a way that people will understand and they can make the same transformation that I had without having the experiences, and to pass down that wisdom, that knowledge to people, especially the younger generation. Especially for me, it's important to pass it down to people who were like me 2-3 years ago when I first started out. But that's where it comes to, like, my mission in life is to push myself past my limits in every form of life, with business, with fitness, with relationships, with social environments, everything, so that I can then take that knowledge and pass it down to the young generation or to whoever else and help them unlock their potential. So first, obviously, through like business, and then through life in general, then through their mindset, then through self-mastery. So yeah, that's pretty much my way of being a service to the world, is being able to push myself to the limits and then pass down whatever I learn and the wisdom I have from that experience or from whoever I learn to the people that are so desperately seeking that information, just like I was 3 years ago, but never had access to it.
It's amazing, brother. It's a mission in an arena that I'm proud to share with you. It's been excellent to share this space with you. I appreciate you sharing your story, your candidness, your vulnerability, as well as the lessons. I think you're really well put together, and you have
Thank you, man.
shared a lot of really actionable frameworks, which I think will be helpful for people to take away. Where can the people find you, and what are you working on?
So I think the probably easiest place to find me is Qasim.Ackrim on Instagram. I'm most active on Instagram. Twitter is same Qasim Ackrim, and YouTube probably as well is probably the best place to look at my stuff if you want to learn more from me and see more about me. Same Qasim Ackrim. So yeah, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter, most important places. And then from there, if you want to get into the agency space and you want to start a business, then you can obviously look at the Winner Circle, and you can just see from my links and my YouTube, you'll be able to see that stuff from there.
Amazing. For those listening, obviously all of Qasim's links are in the show notes. You're obviously finding us on either Spotify, Apple, YouTube, or whatever your podcast player is. You can continue to listen on to more of these on those platforms. Your support is so important to myself. It means the world to me. It allows me to live this amazing life, connect with people like Qasim and others. You can follow myself at ZDSCHENKE on Instagram and Twitter. Obviously follow along on YouTube. And finally, thank you for spending your time and attention, your most valuable resources, with myself and Qasim today.
100%. Appreciate
Memento
it.
Mori, and I'll catch you on the next episode of the Vitruvian Podcast.
And if he fails, at least fails while daring greater, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who know neither victory nor defeat.